I know in my own life, the things that were harder for me, the relationships that were harder, I can work through those in a way that I'm actually really grateful for those experiences over time. Like it's not
Yeah.
easy to do immediately. So no experience, at least I don't know, tell me what you think about this, but no experience in our life is necessarily good or bad. And maybe it's just how we respond to it.
No, I mean, I agree with that. Like, I look back and it's like, do I wish, like, as a 27-year-old that I didn't get married and spend 13 years of my life in a very hard relationship? I mean, on the one hand, there's no point, right? Because I can't go back. I
Right.
made that decision. I made that
Yeah.
decision when I made that decision. Did I make the right choice? I'm like, probably not. I can't really say much more than that. But do I look back on it and do I regret my life?
Yeah.
No, I don't regret my life.
Yeah.
Do I feel sorry for like young Brett and the situation that he got in that was way more than he could handle? Yes, sure. But um, yeah, there's kind of no point, like it's like your life is what your life is. You either learned from it and gathered some wisdom, or it's just not dealt with yet.
Yeah.
Like that's how I see it. So do I regret it? No, I don't. Like, I don't regret it. Do I wish it had gone otherwise? I don't even engage in that like mental activity
Yeah.
because there's not a point. Like, I'm like, I don't have a time machine. All I
Right.
have is like right now, and to the degree that it impacts me in my life now, that's what I have to have responsibility for.
And that is something I think about a lot. I talk about memory sometimes with like patients and stuff.
Yeah.
And there are aspects of memory that are concrete, meaning you were 27 when you got married. That's a fact, right?
Correct.
You, it was, there was things about it that are unchangeable, but there are actually huge, in fact, the majority of your experience through that hard time is malleable to a degree because the fact that it happened
Yeah.
is concrete. What did it mean that it happened? What did it mean about you?
Right.
What did it mean about the people in your life? What did it mean about the world?
Yeah.
Those are not concrete. Those are experience, perception, and they can be shaped and molded over time to something that is valuable and maybe even, I don't know that you would ever be like, I'm glad that happened to me, but you can tell me what you think about this. Not necessarily I'm glad that happened to me, but I responded to the fact that that happened to me in a way that I grew, and I like the way that I grew from that
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, it's like even when you look at like eyewitness accounts, like for police, like they've shown,
Mm,
like psychologists have shown that like eyewitness testimony is very suspect.
especially in times of
high
high
a high
stress.
stress
In fact, the
situation.
cognitive brain just shuts off.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so it's like even in those situations, like it's very suspect, like the way that our memories work and the way that we
Right.
remember things. And so in our own lives where we feel like we have like a concrete like story, it's not really as concrete as we thought. It wasn't really concrete when we were even like going through it. There are like facts, like you can look like, did a marriage happen? Yes,
This time of day,
yeah, this time of
where
day, like
were
yes,
we?
like this happened, like there's those kind of things, but most of the relationship is, I mean, depending on where you are and the way that you're interpreting it.
It's an interpretation.
And so then it's like, like if you look at like post traumatic stress or post traumatic growth, on the growth side of it is you had a traumatic experience and you've been able to process it in some way and it um, be like absorbed into the self
Yeah.
instead of it being like this weird like little side thing that you have like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like it can get hit and you can feel it, and because it hasn't been like it hasn't been assimilated into your personhood yet.
Right.
because I legitimately felt like, and part of the way that I've told this is like, and then it doesn't make complete concrete sense, but it's like, have you ever read Harry Potter? Or
I mean, I saw the
you
movies.
saw the movie? Okay,
I
so
have a vague idea. I might understand Harry Potter as well as you understand mixed martial arts.
right.
Like, you know,
So
some of these players.
yeah, I mean, she's written some very deeply like psychological stuff into these books,
Okay.
and it's very fascinating. But you have Voldemort and Harry, and they're joined together because Voldemort tries to kill Harry when he's a baby, but it's unsuccessful. But
Mhm.
Harry can always feel him, like he has a
Yeah.
scar, and
There's
he can
some
always
kind
feel
of
him. There's a
connection.
connection, right? And then you learn in the story that Harry and Voldemort basically have the same story. They're abandoned as children. They're orphaned. They're raised not loved.
Okay.
And so they're they're the shadow. You know, like they're the same side of they're
Mirror
the opposite side of this.
images.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
same coin, right?
Chiral centers.
But where does it go from there? Like, what
Yeah.
choices does one make versus the other at the same school, learning the same stuff? And so Voldemort becomes like obsessed with power and
Yeah.
his own self-preservation, and he becomes like the shadow of it, whereas Harry has like friends, he like learns to care, and all of these things. But what Voldemort like sets out to do is he wants to live forever, and so he creates what are called Horcruxes, and he shatters his own soul and then imbues them into these different objects,
Mm.
right? And he hides them, but they're connected to important parts of his life,
Gotcha.
right?
Okay.
And so he fragments and fragments until he's like almost like kind of this like snake-like looking person.
Yeah.
And so what Harry has to do is he has to go and set out and find these Horcruxes and destroy them, and ultimately then Voldemort gets destroyed.
Mm.
But in a way, they're the same person, and this is how he goes out and destroys these Horcruxes that are basically these traumatic events, and then Voldemort is like assimilated.
Yeah.
Not exactly because they're separate people, but like if you look at it like kind of psychologically, this is the way that I've kind of analyzed it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, I look at myself and I like had fragmented myself into so many pieces.
Okay.
And it was a weird process of gathering myself.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was imbued in people. So, like when I was gathering strength to try to leave, I had like my MTC, my mission companion, reaches out to me in New Zealand.
Yeah.
He's in New Zealand, Samoan guy in New Zealand. So here's this period of my life where I was like strong and powerful.
Yeah.
And he was like at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And he reaches out and helps me through this. My Anasazi friends, like you, Richard, and it was like in other people, they just kind of started to show up from different parts of my life, and it was almost like gathering up like these Horcruxes to try to put myself back together again.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought, and it's interesting from my perspective. Did we already talk? I feel like we talked about this last time, but I'm going to share it again if we did. But having had our friendship get some distance in it,
Yeah.
and then coming back to it, it was like somehow
Yeah.
you didn't know who you were.
Yeah.
But I did. At least I felt. That's my experience.
No, yeah.
My experience is like, I know who Brett is.
Yeah.
And I saw this kind of broken, kind of crushed, just barely. Like it was when somebody's struggling so much, you can look at them and see it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're as humans, we're pretty good at being like, if I don't want to share it with you, like I can put a face on.
Yeah.
But there is a point where it's like just visible.
Yeah.
The way you move,
eyes,
the way
you hold
like,
your head.
Just anyway, seeing you and being like, that's not who Brett is. Brett's beautiful and magical and amazing. And I even remember like when I saw you at Richard's house and we
Yeah.
kind of had that hug. I almost felt like I wanted to give you your strength back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the hug felt like, hey, you don't know this, but you're strong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, and it was like, and that's how I felt it. It was like you could see the reflection of people that like that they're like, you don't remember, but we do. And so it took like a lot of people around. I mean, from my family, you know, friends to just like constantly be reflecting that. I mean, I know like with you, like kind of the role that that you started to take was like I'd be really down and not know how to get to where I wanted to go. Like I would call you and you'd be like, man, I know you can't see this right now, but you know, and there's a lot of like hard things going on in your life, but it's like you have a lot of good things and I can see it. Like I can see like you're gonna get there. And so, you know, like I yeah. Anyways, it was like many times like where I would call you and it was just like that reassurance that it's like you can get through this. There's good parts of your life. Like you know, I have my wife, my now wife, Brittany, who's amazing, and my son who was coming. Like it's all I don't know, but it took a lot of people
Yeah.
to pull me out of there, and a lot of it was like people that knew better, like that it wasn't like you're not this weak
It's a
person.
really fascinating thing. I think about it a lot. I think with a lot of humans, maybe even most humans, this is such a fascinating thing. The people that love you the most may see and understand you better than you understand yourself.
Yeah, man, the fruit tree cannot prune itself.
That's a cool. Yeah, I've never heard that, but I really like that. But that's,
Yeah.
and I think that's for a lot of people. I mean, almost universally, in my experience, like working with people either as a therapist or just people that I care about, almost universally, they're more critical on themselves than they are on others. Like we're very
Oh yeah, we're
compassionate
very
towards others
yeah
and we just beat the hell out of
yeah we're
ourselves.
very harsh on ourselves. Like if the way that we talk about ourselves, if somebody was talking that way about someone that we loved, we would probably fight
Oh
them.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if somebody was talking that way to my wife, the way that I talk about to myself, like I
It's
would
not
destroy.
allowed.
Yeah, I would destroy that person.
Yeah.
Um, but because it's like my own self dialogue, like you know, like then I guess you're free to say whatever mean thing you want, and
Yeah.
that's it's
And
interesting that we do that.
I think that's almost a two-edged sword because I actually I actually think that comes from a good thing that's hard to navigate. It, if I were to try and identify like the most core experience at the heart of every human that we're all kind of battling, it's that we're a good person who wants to be good and makes mistakes.
Yeah,
And that criticalness, well, I don't think it's healthy, and we need to learn how to be as kind to ourselves as we are to others. I do think it comes because we have this deep, strong, fiery furnace of a core that says, I want to be good.
yeah. Well, then I think that like self criticism is self reflection. You know, like you don't want to, you know, like Socrates says, like, you know, the unexamined life is not worth living, right? And and so self-reflection is good because you don't want to keep making the same mistakes and you want to improve in your life. Um, but like any good thing that has like a shadow to it,
Yeah.
the self-reflection, the examination of your own life can very easily turn into like criticism. And so then instead of it being something that's helpful
Yeah.
and helps you grow, it can actually stunt it.
So
and that's kind of the purpose of it, is to stunt it.
yeah.
And so it's taken something that's good, or maybe we'll argue that I'm just being humble, like because I don't think highly of myself, but I don't think that that's what humility is.
Humility is
Humility,
not thinking you're better than others.
right?
It doesn't mean you don't think that you're good.
Right.
You know what
No,
I
I
mean?
mean, I think that you're being humble and honest about like what the strengths and weaknesses that you have.
Honesty, maybe.
Yeah, honesty. Like your relationship with others, your relationship with God, however you want to look at it. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that that's humility. Like being self-degrading is not, but it's again,
Yeah,
it's like taking the shadow of it.
yeah. So being critical, if the way we're looking at this is accurate, being critical comes from a good place in us. It has a very healthy role, because the opposite of that, somebody who never questions if they're flawed, you don't want to know that person. In fact, we have a name for it. It's called a sociopath.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's extreme of it, right?
Right.
The
And
narcissist, the sociopath.
right. And those are people that don't navigate society in a way that's productive or helpful, and super rare. Actual true sociopathy, I actually think usually it's just extreme collusions and hurt and
Justification and blame.
justifications. It's not actual sociopathy. But nonetheless, that that's what not being critical looks like. So criticism comes from a good part of us. It needs to be there, but there's definitely a right and a wrong way to be self-critical.
Correct.
And I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. Like, what are the right and wrong ways to do that?
I mean, I think that it's like, does it lead towards growth or does it lead towards the opposite, like shrinking?
Yeah. So look at the result.
Yeah, look at the result. Like, where is it leading to? Does it make your soul like get bigger and expand? Do you feel with hope, or do you feel like shit about yourself?
Yeah.
Do you feel small? Do you feel like scared? Like, are you filled with, like, does it fill you with fear? Does it stop you from engaging in things that you want to or feel that you should? Like, you can know it by it's by the fruits of it,
Yeah.
like, and you just have to pay attention to it. And again, like some of it, if you just kind of externalize yourself and you think about like, how am I engaging with myself? Am I engaging in a way that if you, with your very best friend or your closest loved one, and you are trying to help them like grow and see themselves like accurately, like are you interacting with yourself like in a similar way?
Yeah.
or or are you just being self-degrading? And that leads to nothing. That leads to stunted growth. It leads to justification for why you're not doing what you should or feel you want to,
Right.
because you're not good enough.
Yeah.